Good morning. This is our first lecturer on basic electrical engineering. Uh, Before going to basic electrical engineering, I am telling one thing. Okay, this is the basic of the whole electrical branch. Okay, you have to learn in this semester, in your first semester here. Okay, so then in your higher semesters, you will learn the details of electrical engineering. In your higher semester you will learn about electrical machines, power system, control system, and also you will learn power electronics, drives, and so many papers you will learn. Okay, but in this first semester, what is our aim? We have designed a paper which carry the basics of electrical engineering. So when you learn the basic electrical engineering, that means you are able to learn the basics of the electrical engineering, okay, by which you can able to understand uh, the details of electrical engineering in your higher semester. Okay, so before going to the basics, first we have to talk about when we are coming to the basics of electrical engineering. First we have to talk about our electrical potential, because without talking of electrical potential, that means we are not starting the electrical engineering. Okay, so in our first topic, that will be electrical potential. We have to discuss on electrical potential. Then we have to talk about our resistance, then the unit of resistance, then laws of resistance, then resistivity and its unit, then some numerical on resistance. In our first lecture we have to do this, or we have to cover these topics. Okay, so our first topic is electrical potential. Now we have to discuss briefly on electrical potential, by which you can understand what is electrical potential. Okay, so when I am going to discuss on electrical potential, we should understand what is the idea behind the electrical potential. Okay, so for that I have shown you two figures here. See the figure 1 or first figure. Okay, or the figure at the left hand side. Okay, this is a photovoltaic cell. Okay, or when I am discussing the photovoltaic cell here, okay, I can tell here that, see the diagram. So this photovoltaic cell is consist of two plates. That is one copper plate, and the next one is a rod. Okay, that is made of zinc. Okay, which is known as cathode, and the copper plate is known as anode. Okay, see one thing I am telling you here. See the diagram here. Okay, this is our copper plate. Okay, this is known as anode. Okay, and this one is your zinc rod or cathode. Okay, these two are immersed in dilute sulfuric acid, that is H2SO4, contained in the vessel, which is contained in the vessel. This is our vessel. Okay, and within the vessel these are contained. Okay, so obviously some chemical reaction will happen. Okay, and the chemical action taking place within the cell causes the electrons to be removed from the copper plate and to be deposited to the zinc rod at the same time. Okay, so what will happen then? Because of this, some transfer of electrons is accomplished through the agency of diluted H2SO4, which is known as the electrolyte here. The H2SO4 is the electrolyte, and in this process actually, or in this simple photovoltaic cell, we are using H2SO4, which is nothing but that is our electrolyte. Okay, so as a result, the zinc rod becomes negative due to deposition of electron, and and the copper plate becomes positive due to the removal of electron from it. Okay, now the large number of electrons will be collected on zinc rod, is being attracted by anode, but is prevented from returning to it by the force set up by the chemical action within the cell. So if two electrodes are joined by a wire externally, now what I am doing here, see, so here I have connected some external circuit or external conductor or external wire. Okay, so when I am connecting the external wire by and I am joining the two electrodes, what is happening? The electrons rush to the anode, thereby equalizing the charge of two electrodes. Okay, so however, due to the continuity of chemical action, so when the electron is now returning from the cathode to anode, but what is happening? Due to the continuity of chemical action, because within the vessel also chemical reaction is in a continuous mode. So here within the vessel, chemical action is taking place, and external, when I am connecting the external circuit, now the electrons are again, which is going from the anode to cathode, then what is happening? Again the electrons are coming from cathode to anode, okay, to balance the level of electron. So as I am telling here, that due to continuity of chemical action, a continuous difference in the number of electrons on the two electrodes or on these two electrodes will be maintained, which keeps up a continuous flow of current through the external circuit. And this action of electric cell is similar to that of a water pump, which is shown in our right hand side figure. Okay, see the right hand side figure, or figure 2. Okay, here I have shown a water pump which will working to maintain a continuous flow of water and water current through the pipe. Okay, so here we can tell that the direction of electronic current, when I see the figure 1 now, here we can tell that the direction of electronic current is from zinc to copper in the external circuit. Okay, however, the direction of conventional current, which is given by the direction of flow of positive charge, is from copper to zinc. So in the present case, there is no flow of positive charge as such from one of electrode to another, but we can look upon the arrival of electrons on copper plate as equivalent to an actual departure of positive charge from it. So that means when the zinc is negatively charged, it is said to be that negative potential with respect to the electrolyte, whereas an anode is said to be at positive potential relative to the electrolyte. So that means here the copper plate is taken as, or the copper plate will be considered as, or it will be assumed as higher potential in comparison to zinc rod. Okay, so for that the difference in potential is continuously maintained by the chemical action going within the cell, or in the cell, which supplies energy to establish the potential difference. Okay, so this is our this is some idea on electrical potential. I think you can understand now what is electrical potential, okay, and how the current is flowing from one like I've talked here that one is copper plate and another one is zinc rod. How the electron is flowing from the positive copper plate to zinc rod, which is negatively or which is negatively charged. After the composite the electron is removed from the copper, and when it is coming to the zinc rod, okay, so that means because within the electrolytic process, okay, the electrons are going to deposit on zinc rod, so which is called as cathode. So by this process, by the electrolytic process, when I am connecting the external circuit, we are getting a current because of the return of the electrons from the cathode to anode again. But the system is a continuous process, and there is some difference between always, or there is some difference is always maintained due to the electrolytic process. And this difference, because of this kind of difference, is known as the potential difference, okay. So I think now you have some idea on electrical potential. Now coming to the next topic, that is resistance. So now we have to talk about what is resistance. So now come to discuss about resistance, okay. So resistance can be defined as the property of a substance due to which it opposes or restricts the flow of electricity or electrons through it. That means resistance is a property. It's a property of a substance, okay, and this restricts the flow of electrons. ठीक है. So this restricts the flow of electrons. That means, so this is the property of a substance, and this property is offered by the substance, and because of this property, means this is a property that means this is a nature of a substance which opposes or restricts the flow of electricity which is flowing through it, okay. So now normally we can tell here that some metals or acids or salts solutions are good for conduction of electricity means they are allowing electricity to flow on them, okay. So like also suppose I am talking about some metals, so we can tell some metals name like silver, copper and aluminum, which are very good conductors. That means they are allowing the electrons to flow them or to flow through them, okay. But the flow of or the rate of flow of electrons will be depends upon the potential difference applied on them, okay. And here when the current is flowing or pass through the molecules of the atoms of the conductors, they collide and other atoms and the electrons, thereby producing heat also. So because of that, some restriction to the flow is happening. So that means that kind of conductor is also offering some self resistance within the flow of electron. Means obviously when I am talking about the conductors, they are allowing the flow of electron, but still as the electrons are collide and thereby, and as there are some due to the collision of electrons, thereby producing some heat within the conductors. So because of this effect, some resistance is generated, or the some property of the conductor itself offers some resistance. Okay, in so that may somehow reduce the flow of electron within the conductor also. Now I want to talk about some materials which are actually not good for conduction. Okay, and they are offering very high resistance to the passage of the electrons within them. Okay, and because of that they are called as poor conductors of electricity. For example, bakelite, mica, glass, rubber, PVC, that means polyvinyl chloride, and diode, etc. So when I am talking about good conductors, they may be like silver, okay, then another one is copper, then the next one is aluminum. Okay, then when I am talking about poor conductors, okay, example of poor conductors they are like bakelite, then it may be mica, then it may be glass, then it may be rubber, okay, it may be PVC. PVC means polyvinyl chloride, or it may be dry wood, okay, not wet wood, dry wood. Okay, so these are the poor conductors which are not allowing the electrons to flow through them easily. Okay, so here I can tell that the bad conductors are nothing but we can treat them as insulators. Okay, so when I am talking about the good insulators, that can be included fibers substances such as paper and cotton. When dry, mineral oils free from acids and water, ceramics like hard porcelain and asbestos, and many other plastic besides PVC, etc., are treated as insulators. Okay, so these are helpful to remember that electric friction is similar to friction of mechanics. So then our next topic is we have to discuss about unit of resistance. Okay, so I can tell that the practical unit of resistance is ohm. Okay, which is denoted by this symbol ohm. Okay, so I can tell here a conductor is said to have a resistance of 1 ohm if it permits 1 ampere current to flow through it when 1 volt is impressed across its terminal. Okay, so for insulators whose resistance are very high, that is a much bigger unit is used there. So for that we are using mega ohms. Okay, 1 mega ohm is what? 1 mega ohm is that will be equal to 10 to the power 6 ohm. Okay, 10 to the power 6 ohm. Also we can tell there kilo ohms. 1 kilo ohm is what? 1 kilo ohm. That will be 10 to the power 1 kilo ohm is 1 kilo ohm is that will be equal to 10 to the power 3 ohm. Okay. And when you are discussing about the small resistance, for smaller unit of resistance, it may be milliohm. So 1 milliohm will be 1 milliohm will be equal to what? 10 to the power minus 3 ohm. Similarly, I can tell if the unit is micro ohm, okay, then 1 micro ohm is 1 micro ohm is that will be equal to what? 10 to the power minus 6 ohm. Okay, so these are the small units. If the resistance is very small, okay, then we have to talk about the units, maybe milliohm or micro ohm. That means, and if we have a very bigger unit of resistance, then we can denote the unit of resistance as mega ohm or kilo ohm. Okay, in form of kilo ohm and mega ohm, we can understand the unit of resistance. That means, now come to discuss about laws of resistance. Okay, we have to now talk about the laws of resistance. So come to the laws of resistance. I can tell here that the resistance R, okay, which is offered by the conductor, that will be depends upon the following factors. See the factors here. Okay, so in our first factor is the resistance R is varies directly as the length of the conductor. That means resistance will be depends upon the length of the conductor. Okay, and it will be directly proportional to the length of the conductor when I am talking about the laws of resistance. Okay, that means here I can tell that the resistance R is directly proportional to the length of the conductor. Then the next factor is resistance R is inversely proportional to the cross-sectional area of the conductor. See the diagram. Okay, here the length of the conductor is L, so that means the resistance R will be directly proportional to small l, which is here the length is denoted by small l. So that means R is directly proportional to small l, and as I have denoted, the cross-sectional area of the conductor is capital A. So I can tell according to our second factor that resistance R is inversely resistance R is inversely proportional to the cross-sectional area of the conductor. Okay, so that means R is inversely proportional to cross-sectional area A. Okay, and here obviously our third factor is obviously the resistance R. Okay, that will be depends upon what? The nature of the material. And in our fourth factor, I can tell that the resistance will depend on the temperature of the conductor also. Okay, that means what is the temperature of the conductor? What is the present temperature of the conductor? Like suppose I am telling about environmental temperature. So environmental temperature may be vary. In summer, some different temperature, in the noon time, some different temperature. Suppose I am talking about summer and winter. What is the maximum temperature in summer? It may come to 50 degrees centigrade also. But when I am talking about winter, it may come to what? Suppose I am talking about the temperatures in India. So in India, what is the maximum temperature it may goes to in summer? it may be 50 degree centigrade, 45 degree centigrade to 50 degree centigrade. But when it is winter, also somewhere it is coming to 2 to 3 degree centigrade. So if see the variation of the temperature due to the environmental impact. So within the environment, obviously you have to keep the conductor, okay, and there the current will be in, or the conductor will be in application, okay. So for that, that means if the temperature will be different, so obviously depends upon the temperature, the resistance of the conductor will be vary also, okay. Now I have shown two diagrams. See the first diagram. Here the length of the conductor is smaller, and the cross sectional area is big, and for that the resistance R will be low, because R is inversely proportional to cross sectional area, and here cross sectional area is large in comparison to, see the second figure. There in the second figure, I am comparing the first figure and second figure here, okay. In our first figure, length of the conductor is small, cross sectional area of the conductor is large, and in our second figure, length of the conductor is large and cross sectional area of the conductor is small. So when I am comparing the resistance between these two conductors, so obviously the resistance offered by the first figure will be low, and the resistance offered by the second figure will be greater in comparison to the first figure, okay, according to our laws of resistance. Now I want to write mathematically according to the laws of resistance. I want to write the law mathematically. So R is directly proportional. R is what? So R is what? R is directly proportional to okay, so R is directly proportional to L. So I can write R is directly proportional to L, and similarly R is inversely proportional to cross sectional area of the conductor. That means I can write R proportional to L by small l by A, okay. So I can write R as R will be equal to rho L by A, where okay, rho is a constant which will be depending upon the nature of the material of the conductor, and this rho is known as its specific resistance or resistivity, okay. So now see the figure 3, okay, see the figure 3. Okay, see the figure 3 here now. So here in our figure 3, okay, that is a cubic structure, okay. So here L is 1 meter, and your cross sectional area will be also 1 meter square, okay. So cross sectional area of one face will be what? 1 meter square, and for that that means when L is 1 meter and cross sectional area is 1 meter square, if I want to write the resistance of it mathematically according to our mathematical equation, that is R is rho L by A, what will be the value now? So R will be become rho, okay. That means when the length is 1 meter and cross sectional area is 1 meter square, then the resistance will be same as the specific resistance or resistivity of the conductor, okay, or the material offered by it, okay. Now come to discuss about resistivity and its unit. Okay. So come to the discussion for resistivity and its unit. Okay. So I can tell here that rho is, see, already you know the equation, or already you know the mathematical relation between R and rho. Okay. Now from the previous calculation, that is R is rho L by A, I can write here, okay, rho is equal to R A by L. Yes or no? So in SI system of units, I can write rho as A meter square into R ohm divided by L meter. Unit of length is meter, cross sectional area meter square, and obviously the unit of resistance is ohm. So I can write rho is equal to AR by L ohm meter. So the unit of specific resistance or resistivity is what? Ohm meter. So in our next lecture, I want to do some numerical on it. Okay, I want to do some numericals on our discussion about resistance, so, and specific resistance and your resistance. Okay, according to our formula, we have to do some numericals on it. Okay, this finishes our first lecture. Thank you very much.